Welcome to part one of the procedural animation tutorial. So what we're going to do first is, once you've got Houdini open, we're going to set up our projects. So we're going to go up here to File, and then we're going to go to New Project. And then we're going to click this here, which will actually open up a directory. Now just find somewhere that you want to add it into. So I'm going to put this into tutorials. Then I'm going to hit accept, and then I'm going to hit accept again. And then up here where it says new project, what we will pop in here is we'll pop in procedural anim, and then we hit accept. Okay, so what this has done is set up the thing so that when you want to go back in, you can reset your project and choose the files that you've been going into. Okay, the first thing we're going to do with this one is we're going to make the boxes here. We're going to create the box with the animation. The first thing we want to do with your cursor in here is hold down the Alt and right click and drag until the 0 here is basically in this sort of a direction. Somewhere around there, I think, is a good spot. Oh, we're going to bring it right around. We're going to bring it so that there, your -1 here and your +1 on the X and Y are there. So somewhere in that vicinity. We're going to scroll right in here in a second. But the first thing we're going to do over here in the network area, we're going to add a new geometry node. So you can either right click or you can tab and then just search out geometry, and you start typing in, you'll see geometry here. Okay, we're going to pop down that geometry node. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside this to what they call the surface operator or SOP level. So we go inside here and we're going to tab, and then we're going to start typing in box. We want to drop a box in there. We've got a nice size box there. And the next thing we need to do is we need to scale this down because this will be way too big for what we're going to do here. So up here in the uniform scale, we're just going to type in 0.014. Now that's going to scale this right down small. And just for the purposes at the moment, we're going to zoom in here, and that is Alt and scroll your middle mouse button. So we'll zoom in here just so we can see what's going on. Now what we need to do is we can use keyframes and have this rotate, but we're going to use a transform node. So we're going to go transform, and up here with the transform node, I'll drop that in there. This transform node allows us to transform things. So make sure that the blue is on here because that's what we're going to see in this view, and that is also what is going to be rendered later on. So with the transform node, what we want to do is we need to go up here, just up here in the rotate. Now we want to rotate on the x-axis to get it rotating. Now the x-axis is sort of along this direction here, so we want it to rotate around that way. So on this x-axis we're going to use an expression called $f, and that $f will help us to obviously rotate it in a consistent manner. So when we type in $F, and then capital F, that will give us a nice procedural way of creating a rotation. Now what we need to do, we need to actually get this rotating a little bit a little bit fast, and we're just going to multiply that here by 4. Now, when I scrub through, also make sure down here, this little clock here, make sure that's turned on, because that will give us a real time. So if we scrub through down here, you can see that this is going to, and if I hit play, it will actually rotate how we need it to rotate. There we go. Okay, so that is the first part of our full tutorial. And then the next part that we're going to do is we're going to copy this onto the points of the head. Now, for setting up the copying the points to the head geometry, what we need to do is we need to go into here and we need to type in head. Okay, but what we're looking for is test geometry template head. Okay, so we just pop that one down there. Now, what we need to do, it's going to make this disappear, is we need to visualize the head. Okay, and we're going to just zoom out there a bit so we can see what we're doing. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to increase the size of this head a bit more up here in the uniform scale to 2.1. Just making it a bit bigger. Let's zoom out a little bit more, move that over. If you want to move it side to side, hold down your Alt and middle mouse button, click and drag. Okay, so this here. Now, what we first of all need to do is we're going to do a match size. What the match size is going to do, I consider this grid here to be the ground plane, and we need to bring this up so that it's sitting on the ground plane, because currently it's going between. So we're just going to go with a match size in here. Match size right there. We're going to pop that in there. We're going to join that up to that, and we're going to bring that down to there. Okay, so now what we need to do is to bring that up, we've got to use this one right here. We're going to bring that to the minimum, so that brings the base up. And that'll bring that up there. That's now sitting nicely on where we want it to sit. Okay, then how do we get points onto this? Well, we use a simple node called a scatter node. Okay, this scatter node here. Plug that in there, bring that to there, and as you can see, we've got it pretty well done. But what we would really like to do is just bring this global seed here up to 1. It just evens things out a little bit better and makes things look pretty cool from where we're going to see it. And we're just making sure here, this here, we want to bring up that to 1500. So instead of 1000, we want to bring that up to 1500. This gives a little bit more definition for how the cubes are going to sit. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to copy these over to here. So what we're going to use is what they call a copy to points node. So we go copy to points on here. Okay, now what we want to copy, what geometry we want to copy is this here. So it goes into the left hand side here, and what we want to, the points we want to copy it to goes in the right hand side here. Now when we bring up the render view, we now have a nice little thing, and as you can see, we just press play here, and we've got just this nice rotation happening. Okay, so that's how we copy to points. Next we're going to do is we're going to work on scaling up using that scale up animation of the cube, so that it as the camera moves, the cubes scale up. For scaling up the cubes, what we're going to use a couple of really cool nodes. One of them being the attribute create node, because we actually need to create an attribute to help do this. And the other one is the attribute transfer node. So let's get started by just dropping in another box just here. Now we don't need to do anything with this box at the moment. That is basically it. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to do the match size again. And we're going to drop that down as well. And we're just going to match size there, and we're going to bring that up to the minimum. And if we have a look, there it is there. I'll just zoom out. What we've got to also make sure is the box does cover all the parts of the head as well. So yes, that is something that is needed. Now the next thing we're going to do is over here on this side, we're going to use an attribute create. Attribute create, and we're just going to pop that in here. If we bring it in line with that, you'll see there when we pop it in, that will actually just bring it straight in. Now this attribute create, what it's going to do, we're going to use a special attribute called p-scale. And with this p-scale, what we need to do is in here, in the values, we actually need to make sure that one is set at 0, which it is already, which is good. So down here in the value, it's set at 0. Okay, because what we want to do is we want to start the boxes down at a scale of 0. And that enables that. Then from this side over here, we're just going to click, and then we're going to hold down Alt in here, and we're going to come across here. Okay, and we're going to attribute create number 2. Now the value in here is what we're looking at, and we need that to be in the value here. We need to be 1. Okay, so that scale, that will then bring it from a 0 scale up into another one, and you'll see what happens here in a moment of how that will be created. The next thing we need to do is on the box here, we need to do a transform. Okay. A transform node. Now, with this transform node, we're actually going to use some keyframes for this one. And we're going to pop them in, making sure that everything is correct. We're just going to pop in 2 keyframes, one at 1. And what we're going to do here, we're just going to bring our thing back here, back to 1. And in the translate on the Y, because we want it to go up, we want to take that to minus 4.55, which will drop this out of sight. Okay, and then this big button here, this is how we key in a frame. We just click that. That's all keyed in. And then we want to come up to halfway at 120. So we just click in there, and that will bring it up to 120. And this keyframe here at 120 needs to come up to minus 3.65. So we go in here and we go minus 3.65. Okay, that then we click on this and that keys that in. And what that is going to do, I'll just zoom out to show you. Right out here, we've just created a lift up into there. Like so. Okay, and then from there, what we are going to do, we're going to do an attribute transfer. Which is this one right here. With the attribute transfer, now what we need for the attribute transfer is we need to pop in from there and from here. Now what that's going to do, and you will see it better once we plug it into here, is it's going to create a scale. So the way we do this is we need to go to up here. We need to make sure these are both on points because we're using a point scale, not a primitive scale. So those two into points, and then we need to come across to the conditions. Now, the conditions that we've got in here are 10, 1. This one says 10. We're going to drop that down to 3.51. So 3.51. And then the blend width, we're going to put that onto 0.11. This I found has given, you know, with a Lendit model, you can change these to different sorts, but I found this works best for this type of animation that we're doing. And then what we do from there is we just bring that into here just to replace it. Okay, now when we copy to points and we go all the way in here, we'll just start this at 1. You'll see that there's nothing, but when it just brings up this really nice attribute transfer of things, and I'll just zoom in there a little bit more so you can see it a bit better. Take that all the way back, and you just get this really cool, nice transference of the things. Now, that is the scale animation. Next, we're going to look at using the attribute transfer to transfer color. To animate the color, we're going to use a color node, the transform node, and the attribute transfer a couple of times. The first thing what we need to do is we need to get a color node, and it's COLOR, okay, the American style spelling for that one. And then we're just going to Alt, left click and drag, and left click and drag while holding down the Alt again. Okay, so for the first color, we're just going to follow along with the video colors with this one, but you can do any, but we're going to make this one red. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, we're going to make that blue. And the third one, we're just going to make that yellow. Okay, for the first one, for the red, we're just going to drop this in between this attribute transfer and the attribute create. That's going to turn everything red. So when we scroll through, you'll see that we've got a nice red color happening there. Okay, for the next one, what we're going to do underneath the match size is where we're going to place this. Now you won't see anything happen because we haven't done the transform or the attribute create, but that one's going to be yellow. I'm just going to drag this down here a little bit, probably up a little bit, and then this one here, we're going to string it off that match size again, and we're going to pull this one down here like so. Okay, now what we can do is we're going to use the transform and the attribute create here, and then we're just going to adjust it. The beauty of this one is if I alt, click and drag, and bring it down here, what happens is the keyframes come along with it. So everything with the keyframe. Now, I have obviously experimented and got something going pretty good here. So what we're going to do down here, we're just going to make sure that's on 1. We're just going to hover over that 1, right click, copy. We're going to go and click on 48. And then we're going to right click and paste. Okay, this one here, it already has the value that we need. So we're going to click on where it is. Now we're going to just hover over it and middle click and release, and then middle click and drag back to 96. Like so. What that has done, it's just adjusted those keyframes for us. Now for this one, we need this one again. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to copy, and then we're going to go to 144. And we're going to right click and paste. That's going to hold that for a little bit. And then for the final one, we're going to go to 192. And up in here, we're going to put a value of minus 4.02. So it's minus 4.02, enter, and then we're going to key that in by going down here. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to alt, left click and drag. We're going to plug the attribute transfer in here, but this one here, you can see how it's gone along to there. We don't want it there. We actually want it from the copy to points. Okay, now when we bring up the render view, what you can see is we now have the blue following up with the red to the top, and then it's going to hold, and then it's going to zip itself back down and settle. Okay, similar process for this one as well. So what we're going to do, we're just going to grab both of these. So click and drag outside. Alt, holding down Alt, right click and drag. We're just going to plug those into there. And this one here needs to be plugged into here. Okay, at the moment you won't see anything because the yellow will overtake the blue. Okay, because we need to offset that. So what we do to offset that is this one here. So at 48, middle click, and then middle click and drag, bring that to 49, just one frame over. Okay, this one here we need to bring up to, so middle click, make sure that we have that highlighted correctly, middle click, and then middle click and drag to 120. Okay, this one here, what we're going to do with that, we're just going to delete that one. So we'll delete that one out. And then this one here, we're going to bring it back to frame 168. So click, middle click and drag that one back to 168. Click out, click back on it at 168. And we're going to change the value of that one. So that's in the transform of this. So we're going to change the value here to 0.428, minus 0.428 that is. So just like so. Now what we'll get is we'll just get this nice little transition all the way through. That will go up, it'll hold, it'll drop back down the blue, and then it'll bring out the yellow, and then it'll hold for a little bit until the end of the sequence. Okay, so if I just play through that, this is what it looks like. Just those nice smooth transitions between colors and scaling up, like so. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of the tutorial, setting up the animation of the surface operator or SOP level of the geometry. See you in part 2.